Welcome to the Hard Truth Podcast. This is Jeremy Fouts, and today we are going to do our best to do something I have been wanting to do for a long time. My time is very limited trying to be a CEO of a nutrition company that's growing and then also help athletes gain weight, speaking at schools, talking to athletes. Also, have two boys myself that are playing ball and very active. And I just wanted to have one episode that I can point people to when I'm not able to help them to try to understand, a few things about nutrition. And I wanted to make sure I did a good, thorough job of trying to deliver this message. And I want to tell you, if you're driving, all of these call notes is going to be on YouTube. So go follow us on YouTube. You're going to be able to follow along with me as and see these graphics, these numbers, everything that I'm going to do. That way it's easier for you to get home, sit down, get you a piece of paper, figure out your calorie burn, figure out what your calories need to be at, what your macros need to be, your proteins, carbs, and fats. And this is going to be an easy way for me when I don't have time to say, go listen to this episode. So I'm excited about this episode. You could get lost, though, if you don't sit down and really take this information and write it out for yourself. But I'm going to try to make this as simple as possible. So I'll get started here first and foremost. Why weight and strength matter. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time in the training part, but I'm going to tell you, athletes, it matters. I mean, your college and pro scouts, they're looking for size, speed, and strength. And I know that there's some little athletes that are extremely good. I'm not going to argue that. But when you're going to go to that next level, trust me on this. They're looking for size, speed, and strength. I've heard numerous college coaches that have made this comment. They would rather take a kid that can hit the baseball off a tee at 95 mile an hour and has a 220 batting average versus a kid that hits it off the tee in high school at 85 and has a 320 batting average. And the way that they look at that is they're like, man, I can teach the strong, powerful kid how to hit better, when I get a hold of him in college. But I don't know if that other athlete is going to put on the size, put on the speed, get strong enough in order to play at this next level. And I talk baseball a lot, but I have a son that plays football and lacrosse. It's all across the board, guys. I just got through building a meal plan for a basketball player. He's 160 pounds. He wants to play at the next level. He's got to get bigger. He's got to get stronger. He's got to get faster. So I want you all to understand this applies to every sport. College softball, high school softball. The stronger, faster, more physical you are, the more it's going to make the difference. Now, what's that going to do? What is a way for you to be able to do that? And it's called food. God put food here as a fuel source for us. And one of the biggest things that I see over and over with today's athletes, they have so many activities that they're doing. I mean, they have a hitting coach, they have a speed coach, they have, lifts at school, they have lifts after school, they have practices. They're doing all these things, and over, what is told to me is my metabolism's high. I can't gain enough weight. But if I ask any of them, do you know how many calories you're burning in a day? Not one time have I ever talked to an athlete that knew for sure how many calories they're burning in a day. Some of them have these devices, the watches, that they'll have an estimate, but they've never sit down and really figured up and don't know how to figure up how many calories that they're burning in a day. So we're going to do that today. The nutrition basics for what we're going to get into is your proteins, your carbs, and your fats. And just a reminder, your proteins is what builds muscle and helps muscles recover. Your carbs is your fuel source, your energy before the lifts, after the lifts, before the practices, after the practices. And then your fat supports your hormones, and then it also helps add extra fuel, kind of similar to the carbs, but it also helps with brain development. So all three of these macros are extremely important for your future development and to be able to do what you want to do. So I'm going to talk about the practical steps for gaining weight. And then we're going to talk about, what you need to do in order to figure out your calorie burn. So, practical steps, we're going to figure out how many calories we need, how many proteins we need, how much carbs we need, how much fats we need. And then we're going to spread that out through about 6 meals, 3 main meals and 3 snacks. And when you really figure out how many calories that you're burning and how many calories you need in order to gain weight, you're going to see why we spread it out through 6 different meals. And then also the importance of it, the lifestyle factors is sleep equals growth, most recovery, most muscle. Everything happens when you're sleeping, and I'm big on that. I talk all the time, whether it be on social media or in talking to teams. 9 hours of sleep is very, very important. No less than 8 hours of sleep, and then hydration. Hydration equals performance. Dehydration slows you down and not only causes cramps, but it's going to mess with your nervous system. It's the first thing that happens. It's going to keep your muscles from being engaged, which then causes a muscle to overcompensate, which then you have a pulled muscle. So I encourage you to understand the other important part of lifestyle factors too is consistency. Daily habits matter more than one meal. It's all about, did you win this day? I had some new athletes that I brought on this week, and I didn't have a lot of time, but I brought on a couple new ones because one of the dads, just like, man, we really need you. And I looked this athlete up. His name is Hunter in Tennessee, and I brought him on, and I said, you know what, I'll take him on as an athlete. And I tell you, man, I sent him a text this morning. I always try to send my athletes a text message, to follow up. And I told him, man, we got to win today. You're a champion, all these different things. And I texted him and his dad together. And his dad said, man, thanks for the reminder, not just for him, but for me. That's what is done, guys, to be a champion. Every day, did I do the best in my workouts? Did I do the best in the classroom? Did I do the best in my home life? Did I do the best in all these areas? Because, yes, you want to win on the field, but 9 times out of 10, what determines if you win on the field and how often is what you're doing on a daily basis through that consistency. Next is mindset and ownership. Nutrition is part of training. It's not optional. I had a boy the other day in Waxahachie. I spoke to their team, and he commented afterwards. He said, I'm working out 2 times a day. Should I work out 3? And I said, no. You should work out really hard one time and make sure that you're getting the nutrition and sleep that you need. Nutrition it's not optional if you want to be an elite athlete. And parents, you listening to this, it's the same way with you. I mean, if you want to be the best you can be and you should want to treat your body like an athlete, you got to handle your nutrition. Take ownership. Don't wait on parents or coaches. I'm telling you, I'm so blessed to have a lot of athletes that I work with that have awesome parents. They're helping them meal plan, all these things. But these recipes on my Instagram, any kid can do it. They can cook it themselves if they want to. It's not that hard, and you have to take ownership of that. And then also, athletes who succeed at the next level, they master the details off the field. So that's what it's about, is mastering the details off the field. I'm going to save the last part for here in a second. All right, let's get into it. This is going to be a little difficult for me to do, but I'm going to do my best. And all of this is going to be in the notes, and all of this is going to be recommended for you go to YouTube and see what I just did here. And I am looking at a 150-pound athlete, and I skipped over a part in my beginning of reason I chose a 150-pound athlete in the first page, and I skipped it when I was talking about why weight and strength matter. Here's an example. The difference between a 150 and a 175-pound shortstop could mean 5 to 7 mile per hour on his throw across the field, and it could mean 5 to 7 mile per hour on his swing. Now, if you don't really know what that means, 5 to 7 mile per hour on your swing can mean that baseball going 25 feet further. I watch a lot of these athletes, including my own boys, that went from, using what we call the hot bats and then going to the BB core bats. And the kids that was hitting them close to the fence could barely get them out of the infield with the BB core bat. And that's acceptable at that first year because they're younger. But in order for you to go to that next level, you're going to have to get faster, stronger to be able to hit the baseball further and run farther, run faster. So that's why I used a 150-pound athlete. Now, if you see here in this filled out sheet, this is something I recommend everyone to do. I mean, Zane, down in San Marcos area, he's one of my newest supporters. He needs to fill this out. And every one of you athletes, this is something you need to take on yourself and figure out your calorie burn. So that's what we're going to do. Pretty simple. Weight, 150 pounds. I put his height at 5'8". He's going to be 15 years old. Male, of course. Weight. You take your weight, which is 150 pounds, divided by 2.2, which comes out to 68. Then you take your height in centimeters. If you don't know how to do that, I already did it for you. Your height is 5'8", so we're going to take 60 inches, because 5 times 12 is 60. Add 8 inches, which is 68. We have this sheet filled out now. We got 68 and 172. Those are the two numbers we need for this next equation to figure out your BMR, which stands for your basal metabolic rate. That's how many calories you are burning doing nothing. That's how many calories you're burning in survival mode, okay? We have got to figure that out. Now, that number will change the bigger and stronger that you get. So you're going to have to keep up with that as you progress in this process. So we're going to go to our equation here, our formula, and it's going to say male 10 times weight in kilograms. So it's going to be 10 times 68, which is 680. Okay. Now we're going to go over to our next part of the equation, and we're going to take 6.25 times 172, which is our height in centimeters, and we're going to come up with that number, which is 1,075. Now we're going to go over to the next part of our equation. We're going to take 5 times 15, which equals 75, and then we're going to add 5, which is going to be 80. Okay, so we got all three of those numbers. Now we're going to take 680 plus the 1,075 minus the 80, and that's going to give us 1,675 is that athlete's BMR, basal metabolic rate. How many calories he's burning just doing nothing, okay? Now we're going to go down and we've got to figure out our TDEE, which is our total daily expenditure. Now this is something that is very important because, again, I get these athletes over and over say, I don't know why I can't gain weight. It's because their BMR is this number. Then we add in their activity levels and we figure out how many calories they're burning. This is a 150-pound athlete. I'm looking at here the activity level. I've got to take the BMR times one of these multipliers. The first one is low school only, no workouts. That's none of you probably listening to this podcast, unless you're a dad and you need to get out after it. Next one is moderate, school plus one practice per workout. That's probably like a 12-year-old or something, okay? It's not a high school athlete, I guarantee you. Then you got high, 5 to 6 days of training. That's going to be majority of you baseball players right now. But you football players, you're probably going to be at the next one, which is very high because you're practicing so much, probably 2 hours a day. You're probably also lifting. You have games on Friday night. You have all these different things. But I'm going to look at this as a high activity for this example because this is a baseball player that I'm using as an example. Now, baseball players, if you are in season, like my son, and they practice or in the spring, not now, they'll practice 4 hours a day plus do lifts in the morning. And I promise you, this number is probably going to be a multiplier very high of the 1.9. But for right now, we're going to use this 1.75. We're going to times it by our BMR. That athlete at 150 pounds is burning 2,931 calories a day. Okay. So, what does that mean to you listening to this podcast? If an athlete is wanting to get bigger and stronger, and he's burning 2,931 calories a day, if he brings in less, he's in a deficit. Not only is he going to lose weight, probably going to lose some muscle, but also he's not giving his body all the nutrition that it needs in order to fully recover from all the activities. See, getting enough calories is not just about only gaining weight, which we need to gain weight and the right kind of weight, but it's also very important for us to have the nutrition for our body can take that nutrition and help our body recover. So, 2,931, you go down to the next one, step forward, it says add calories for weight gain. How much calories do we need to add? If this athlete wants to gain 1 pound a week, he needs to have a calorie surplus of 500, which 2,931 plus 500, he needs 3,431 calories a day. If this athlete wants to gain 2 pounds a week, which I have a lot of athletes that come to me not till their junior, senior year, and they have to gain 2 pounds a week. So if you look at this formula, they would have to have 3,931 calories. So if you're a younger athlete or your dad listening or mom, and you have a young athlete, encourage them to start young. Now, I'm not talking about getting your son at 10-year-old on a meal plan, but teach them about proteins, teach them about carbs, teach them about fats, teach them to stay away from sodas and gummy bears and calories that's not going to do anything for you. But once your son starts getting 13 and he's working hard in select ball, he's lifting weights and all these things, guys, I'm not saying they have to still do a strict meal plan, but start tracking their calories, start tracking how much protein, how much carbs, how much fats that they're getting. But by the time they're 14, 15, they need to have a plan. They need to know what they need to do on a daily basis in order to get bigger, faster, and stronger, in my opinion. And I have never saw an athlete yet that says, I'm just going to go gain weight, and they don't have a plan. They don't know how many calories they need. They don't have a meal prep plan. I've never saw it happen. Okay, so you have to plan this out. In this example, we're going to use the 3,431 calories. This is what this athlete needs. So the next thing I do is I go to my next two sheets, which is number one, athlete nutrition cheat sheet, proteins and fats. I'm looking at that one now. The next one is athlete nutrition cheat sheet, carbs and hydration. Let's go ahead and do the hydration before we get into everything else. I made a sheet here for 150 pounds. He needs between 100 to 115 ounces of water a day. Now, I want all of my athletes to drinking 2 electrolytes a day when they're very active. But I'm also a big believer in water, especially from a digestion standpoint. Making sure when we're eating this many calories, we're getting everything as far as our fluids, and I try to stay away from sodas. So let's get back in now to talking about the next part. Out of these 3,431 calories we need, what do we need to do? Okay, this is a guideline for you to figure out how much proteins, carbs, and fats that you need. So with an athlete that's 15-year-old, I always go to the 1.25 grams per body weight. And that's the first thing that I figure out. So I go down to the bottom and I put 150 pounds times 1.25. That's 187.5 grams of protein that this athlete needs. If you see here, it says times 4. There's 4 calories in 1 gram of protein. So I know that 187.5 0.5 grams of protein times 4 is 750 calories. So I know that if we need 3431, then I need to come up with some more calories. Where am I going to get those more calories? I go to the fats next. And if you look at my fats guidelines, 150, what's recommended, 60 to 90. When I'm working with athletes that's 15 or below, I always try to go to the top of this recommendation because they need as much as they can from a hormone standpoint of support going through the last part of puberty, and they also need it for brain development. So I picked the 0.6. So I'll do 150 times 0.6 equals 90. And now there's 9 calories in every 1 gram of fat. So 90 times 9 equals 810. So I add the 810 calories from the fats, 750 calories from the protein, and I come up with a total of 1,560 calories is what I got from the proteins and the fats. Okay? So I remember I need 3,431 calories. So I subtract the 3,431 calories minus the 1,560, and I know that I need 1,871 more calories in order to be able to come up with the remaining calories I need. I know carbs is 4 calories for every 1 gram of carb. So I take the 1871, divide it by 4. I know I need 468 carbs. And I know if I get the 468 carbs, that's going to give me my 1871. And if my 1871 is added up to my 1560, which comes from the calories I'm getting from proteins and fats, I know now I'm at this 3,431 calories. And that's how I usually. Now, there's a lot of things that I'll do different as I'm really fine-tuning an athlete. I'm working with a pitcher down in Mississippi right now, and we are really fine-tuning him. We're going to get him to 200. His last body scan, he's in 5 weeks. He gained 10 pounds. 6 of it was skeletal muscle mass. Out of his body fat also decreased by 2% while he gained 10 pounds. So it's very important to make sure we have these macros correctly. But when you're starting off, you can use this guideline and say, okay, I know I need to be at 1.25 grams at 150 pounds. That's a good guideline. My healthy fats, I need to be between 0.4 to 0.6. Okay, my carbs, 150 pounder, needs to be 270 to 480. And you say, how do I know which one do I need to pick? If you're 150 pounds and you're shorter and maybe you got a little bit of midsection around you, pick a middle one. But you got to be conscious. Don't pick the 4, the lowest one, and then run out of energy. We can work off that midsection by putting on that muscle with that 1.25 grams of protein. But this is good guidelines for you to go by. And I'm telling you, these numbers, you say, well, you kind of lost me. This is a little bit confusing, so I just don't understand it. Understand it. Watch this video 5 times if you have to. Listen to the podcast, and you moms and dads, spend some time with your athlete. Teach them about nutrition. Let them know that this is not something that would be good for them. This is something that is a must-have that will go with them for the rest of their life if they understand what they need to do from a nutrition standpoint. So the last thing I'll say, guys, gain weight, get stronger, improve performance, and that opens doors to other opportunities. The game day isn't won on game day. It's won in the kitchen, the weight room, and your daily choices. Athletes, I hope that you really pay attention to this message. Moms and dads, I hope that you really understand that this is something that is a must-have for your athlete. We spend all of this money on a hitting coach, a pitching coach, hockey lessons, wrestling lessons, all these different things. And then we open up a refrigerator and we say, what are we going to have today? Or the athletes run to Chick-fil-A, they run to Cane's, they run to Whataburger, they grab the cheese pizza. And then we say, man, why come my little Johnny is not as good as this kid or that kid? Moms, dads, athletes, control what you can control. Let's figure out their BMR. Let's figure out their activity level and what their TDEE is. Let's figure out how much protein they need. Let's figure out how much carbs they need, how much fats they need. And let's really get to work with what we need to do to fuel their body correctly. Guys, thank you for the opportunity as always. I hope that you share this podcast. And I want you to share it with a friend or family member. Follow us on Instagram, YouTube. We are looking to the more feedback I get from my athletes, my moms and my dads, it just gives me fuel. Being a CEO of a company has a lot of challenges, but this is something that I'm passionate about, something I can pull up my text right now from so many different athletes the last couple of days, and it just fuels my soul because I want y'all to know how important nutrition is in your life. Have a great day. Thank you for listening.